What would make Mark Consuelos walk away from his decades-long marriage to Kelly Ripa? The answer may be more complicated and more revealing than fans expect. Mark and Kelly have spent nearly 3 decades together, building a family, working side by side, and becoming one of television's most recognizable couples. But over the years, they have also been remarkably open about the realities of marriage, including arguments, jealousy, communication problems, and intimacy. And Mark has previously been very candid about one particular issue he would find difficult to accept in a marriage. So, is this really a sign of trouble for the couple? Not at all. In fact, the context makes the story much more interesting. Mark and Kelly's relationship began in the world of daytime television. The two met while working together on All My Children, where they played romantic characters. Their on-screen chemistry eventually became a real-life romance, and the couple famously eloped in Las Vegas in May 1996. Nearly 30 years later, their relationship has survived career changes, raising 3 children, working together, and living much of their lives in the public eye. That doesn't mean they've pretended marriage is always easy. Quite the opposite. One reason fans find Mark and Kelly so entertaining is that they are willing to talk about the less glamorous side of being married. They have discussed disagreements, changing priorities, and the challenge of maintaining a relationship after their children grew older. In 2023, the couple even opened up about marriage counseling and the work involved in improving communication. Mark explained that once their children were older, they had more time to focus on themselves as a couple and address some of the things they had been dealing with for years. That honesty gives additional context to Mark's comments about what he considers a relationship deal breaker. One of the most revealing discussions came when Mark and Kelly talked about intimacy in marriage. During their conversation, Mark acknowledged that a complete lack of intimacy would be extremely difficult for him. He explained that if his partner simply decided that they would never have sex anymore, he would have a problem with that. However, he also made an important distinction. If there were a medical reason preventing intimacy, he said he would understand. That difference is significant because it shows that Mark wasn't simply talking about physical intimacy in isolation. He was discussing the importance of connection between two people who have spent decades building a life together. And that's what makes the deal breaker headline more dramatic than the reality. Mark wasn't announcing that he wanted a divorce. He wasn't saying his marriage to Kelly was in trouble. And there was no indication that the couple were preparing to separate. Instead, he was discussing a hypothetical situation and being honest about something he considers important in a long-term relationship. That is very different from an actual divorce announcement. The couple have repeatedly demonstrated that they are comfortable joking about their marriage, even when the subject sounds dramatic. In fact, that sense of humor is one of the things that has become a defining part of their relationship. Kelly and Mark aren't afraid to tease each other, disagree on television, or tell stories about moments when they didn't see eye to eye. They have also spoken about trust and individuality. Kelly has previously described trust as an important part of their long-lasting marriage, emphasizing that they have built a shared history while also maintaining their own interests and identities. That becomes particularly important when looking at another deal-breaker conversation the pair had. In February 2025, Kelly discussed whether couples should share their locations with each other. Her position was surprisingly firm. She said she didn't need to know where Mark was at all times and described requiring that information as a deal breaker for her. Mark agreed that constantly tracking a partner could be strange. So, ironically, the couple have both identified very different boundaries when discussing relationships. Kelly values independence and doesn't want to feel monitored. Mark has spoken about the importance of intimacy. Put those ideas together, and you get a glimpse into what has helped their relationship survive for so long. They understand that being married doesn't mean giving up individuality. They met as young actors, fell in love quickly, and married after a brief breakup. Mark has even described that breakup as one of the most agonizing weeks of his life. According to his later recollection, he realized almost immediately that he had made a mistake. The two eventually reunited, and Mark proposed. They then flew to Las Vegas and got married. That history makes their current relationship even more fascinating. They didn't begin as a perfectly established Hollywood power couple. They were young people trying to figure things out. They had disagreements. They briefly separated, and then they made a decision to commit to each other. Over the years, that commitment has evolved. The couple became parents to Michael, Lola, and Joaquin, and eventually found themselves navigating life as empty nesters. Mark and Kelly also transitioned from working separately to appearing together on Live with Kelly and Mark, creating an unusual situation where husband and wife now share a professional environment as well as a home life. For many couples, spending that much time together could create tension. But Mark and Kelly have managed to turn their relationship into part of the entertainment. Their conversations can sometimes feel like viewers are watching a married couple have their morning coffee, except millions of people are watching. That's why Mark's comments about a potential deal breaker immediately attract attention. Fans know that the couple don't always agree. They know they have had difficult periods. They know they have worked on communication. But they also know that the pair frequently express affection and admiration for one another. Mark has previously described himself as being absolutely crazy about his wife, while Kelly has spoken about the value of their shared history and trust. So the headline about a divorce deal breaker shouldn't be interpreted as evidence that divorce is actually on the table. Instead, it highlights something more. Interesting, even couples who have been married for decades still have boundaries. And talking about those boundaries can actually be healthy. Every relationship has certain things that matter more than others. For one person, it might be dishonesty. For another, it might be controlling behavior. For someone else, it might be emotional distance. For Mark, his comments suggest that maintaining intimacy and connection is a major part of what he expects from a marriage. And considering the length of his relationship with Kelly, that's hardly surprising. Marriage changes as people get older. When couples first meet, their relationship may revolve around romance, work, and building a future. Then children enter the picture. Careers develop. Responsibilities increase. Eventually, children grow up and leave home. Suddenly, the couple are left with the relationship itself. Mark and Kelly have openly acknowledged that transition. Their decision to explore counseling wasn't an admission that their marriage was failing. Instead, it was presented as an opportunity to improve communication and deal with issues that can accumulate over decades. That's an important distinction. Hollywood often creates the impression that successful couples either have perfect marriages or are secretly heading toward divorce. Real relationships are rarely that simple. People argue, people change, people learn, and sometimes couples seek help precisely because they want to make their relationship stronger. Mark and Kelly's openness about those experiences may be one reason their marriage has remained so fascinating to the public. Of course, fans are still going to speculate whenever the word divorce appears alongside their names. That's simply the reality of being a famous couple. But the available context doesn't suggest that Mark's comments were a serious divorce warning. They were part of a broader conversation about marriage and intimacy. And Mark's history with Kelly actually makes the story more reassuring than alarming. This is a couple who have already experienced a breakup, reunited, married, raised a family, and continued to build their lives together. They've also publicly discussed the challenges that come with maintaining a long-term relationship. And they continue to joke with one another. That's a very different picture from two people quietly preparing to go their separate ways. Looking ahead, fans can probably expect more of the same. Mark and Kelly will continue discussing relationships, family life,